Call the meeting order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Rankin,
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Celaya,
Here.
Councilmember Hawkins,
Here.
Councilmember Montano is absent, Councilmember Walter,
Here.
Councilmember Woolridge.
Here.
We have a quorum. There's a slight error in the agenda. You will see the invocation needs to be moved down below the adjournment of executive session.
Okay. Good. Then we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second. We have a motion and second to adjourn to executive session. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Folks, we'll be in executive session probably for a half hour, 45 minutes. Need a motion?
Make a motion, we adjourn from executive session.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn from executive session. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, if you stand for the invocation and also remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah.
Will you bow your head as I pray? Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all that are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself and the measure of health that we have to fulfill our callings. This evening I'm asking that you would graciously grant us the wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst of justice and rightness, and confidence in what is good and fitting. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This will be the first call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Town Council. Council rules limit public comment to 3 minutes. Individual council members may respond to criticism made by those commenting, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss or take action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. I have 3 requests so far. Denise Colbert.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Denise Colbert, Florence Gardens. I want to speak tonight about, under new business, E, the park, Padilla Park. When you first brought this forward, I had reservations about the splash pool or splash pad. I still do. I know things have changed because of what has been found and unearthed. I want the park there for the movies and the music that have been talked about, but I still think the splash pad is just not relevant to what you're less than 3/4 of a mile down the road, we're going to have a beautiful aquatic center. Why do we need a splash pad there? It would be less money if you don't put it in. It'll be less maintenance if you don't put it in, and you won't be using water if you don't put it in. So I don't have any objections to what is in E tonight about, and I know why that's being asked for. I just wish you would think about, since you're going to have to be doing some redesigning, that maybe you think about taking the splash pad out and saving some money that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Albert Dare.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council persons. I just wanted to come up this evening and thank you so much for being very diligent in trying to seek the annexation of the new land out to the south No, to the north, I guess, of the river. One way or the other. It's got to be out there someplace. But anyway, I remember a year or so ago when this was first announced. And I came down to see how it might be going to go for me. I thought, well, that's exciting. I'm sorry, I forgot the rules. My name is Albert Dare, and my residence is in Tempe and has been for 70 years. My property is part of the Magic Ranch development. I'm not in the Magic Ranch master plan, but I have land in there. And so I wanted to know how it would affect me as an individual when I heard we might have it be in the city. Well, came down and I met the director and found out that everything is going to be just as good as it was before, except somehow I was going to have to end up with a half a horse. Okay? And so I didn't know where they're going to get that one, but I said, well, okay, I guess I'll just cut it down a little bit. But anyway, I want to thank you folks for being diligent and working this out. This has been a long year. And I remember one of the things the director said, your director said to me back then. He said, well, you know, maybe we can get someone to donate some land for a fire department, fire station out there. And I thought, boy, howdy, are you ever young? You must have been smoking Bermuda or something. But anyway, I'm glad to see that he stuck to his word. And he didn't forget that if we get that in there, we'll have a fire station out there in the Magic Ranch area that we never would have had before. And what I'm happy to think of, we're getting close to the end. And the good book that I lived by says, be not weary in well-doing, for you will reap if you faint not. We are down, Lisa says we're down to the last 30 days. So we still got work to do, okay? And I mailed out letters this week to people. I want them to vote yes, of course. Why? It's for the future. It's not for me. All these plans are beautiful plans. Well, I won't get to see most all of them, and most of the people in this room won't. But that's what good leadership is. You see the future, and you point towards it, and it'll go somewhere. I was lucky in my young years to watch the development of the city of Tempe. I saw some leaders make mistakes. I saw some leaders make some good ones. But I'll leave you with one illustration. What does it do for you? Well, for one thing, back 50 years ago, if you had something you wanted to discard in our area, you just took it to the river and threw it in the riverbed. Well, you know, with going into the city and doing all those other things, well, if you have $300,000 or $400,000 now, you may get a small condo on that same river, okay? Things have a way of improving, and those have to be visionary people. But for your director, I know for sure he's got at least 3 more gray hairs than he had before. And when you get this beautiful new plan, I would personally recommend that you name a park bench after him, because he'll be old by that time and need a rest, okay? But anyway, I'm wasting your time. I'm going to say this. There was an old story one time. A lot of people who live out in our area are retired. My time's up. Get it going. I know. You're lucky. Okay. Anyway, they're retired. We're at the end of our road. We're not doing this for us. We're doing this for the people who will come after us, and will be enjoying it. And I'm thinking that all the little children that live in the Magic Ranch area today that cannot have the privilege of going to a swimming pool, where if the positive vote, they can go to the swimming pool across the road next year. Won't that be nice? Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Downey.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. I'm here tonight to speak about the upcoming contract for the town attorney and the clause in the contract that calls for the attorney to receive a golden parachute, I think in the neighborhood of $40,000 if he's fired. And this in no way, by the way, reflects on the attorney, our town attorney. It will reflect upon the contract. I think it's fiscally irresponsible to reward somebody that you're firing with a check for $40,000 as they walk out the door. So what I'm asking is that that clause be suspended or removed from the contract before it's presented for signature. And I think it's the right thing to do. And there may be times, you know, when an employee of the town, maybe he's a long-term employee, dedicated, done a lot of good things for the town, maybe he should receive a certain stipend as he leaves office. But not something that's guaranteed, not something that's $40,000, and something that should be determined by a vote of the council and the mayor on an individual basis, one by one. Not something that's guaranteed. I don't want to see something like that as a taxpayer. And by the way, Dave Downey, I live on Yorktown Way in Anthem, so I want to get that out. But thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who'd like to comment?
My name is Phil Hollins. I live at 25374 North Poseidon Road in the Magic Ranch. As most of you know, I'm against the annexation, and I'll explain why. Annexation, zoning, general plans, multifamily homes, PUDs, Crestview Manor. Less than a year ago, I honestly could have cared less to hear those words. However, the town of Florence leaders have etched these words in our community as a pathway towards achieving one of the largest revenue grabs in the state's history. The town says in 2002, some Magic Ranch HOA leaders approached them requesting the annexation within their boundaries. Interesting enough, Anthem and Magic Ranch Iron Horse did not exist during that time. But say it did. Then it means that it took the town 7 years to act on a request. But why did it wait so long? Is it because they now realize that this is a cash cow that can generate revenue through property taxes, franchise fees, sales taxes, permits, traffic citations, and more? Or is it simply because we're a speed bump towards the ultimate goal of going to another community north of us, the real cash cow? So let's forward to 2009, while the town is conducting their zoning plan at the state land near two established communities. One being D.R. Horton Magic Ranch Iron Horse community with the boundary within 300 feet of them, and the other Gila River Indian community, which is a Siren Nation, also within 300 feet. Did Florence leaders act as good neighbors and send notices to these entities? Were they afforded the opportunity to object regarding the zoning plans? If so, the builder would have been required by law to disclose that the town's zoning plans were in a high-density residential, and we could have all made an informed decision whether or not to buy in that community. What about notifying the residents within 300 feet when we purchased our homes prior to 2009, or during 2009? And during the last month planning meeting, when we asked why we were never informed, the town lawyer justified their inactions by stating, you should have looked it up on the town website. Is that the brand of transparency and ambiguity annexed communities can expect from town leaders? During my 20 years in the service, serving this country, I would have never considered a shameful answer to someone charged with interpreting the law. One thing for sure, if you tried that in a military commander, you wouldn't be around too long. The town leaders have an ambitious plan to incorporate these communities. However, their old-school approach to achieving their goal is extremely antiquated. They serve no greater purpose than to maximize the revenue streams for the town's government without the compassion of doing the right thing for those communities. For instance, the town's planning map reflects that their desire to zone multifamily residential near my home or our homes. Maybe your community isn't affected today, but if you believe you're exempt from the zoning changes, think again. And then there's a community that's north of us, and speaking of that, since it's part of your zoning plan, why would town leaders spend between $12 to $13 million on a library, rec center, and a pool, pay nearly $400 on a site survey, and enact their veto power to prevent that area north of us from being incorporated when concerning for losing $1 million just for the greater good of that particular community? And lastly, the truth is that the town leaders plan to work that work with us, that we're basically the speed bump, all right? And if this annexation of Magic Ranch in our communities doesn't happen, they won't be able to zone their apartments, industries, grant new developers, supporting annexation, significant tax breaks, and on the backs of our hardworking citizens. This is one thing for sure, transparency isn't the strong suit of this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Member of the council want to respond to that? I'd like to say that on that one, I appreciate your comments. We did follow the letter of the law on the disclosure. I do agree with you that on some things we can go above what the law requires us to do. I think I've met with representatives from that live out in your area. John, you were out there, and I believe I stated the same thing in our meeting, is that we will be doing that. From now on, I'll make sure on that. The state land, we don't have a lot of control on that. As far as your property values going down because of multi-units there, or apartments, or whatever you want to call them, we don't have any idea if that'll ever go. Do you have a crystal ball that you could say it's going to? No. Do we know what state land's going to do with that? No. How long is it going to take a developer to buy that from the state land since the state land's not selling? We don't know. But I can tell you this, sir, on behalf of my staff, of the council staff, we did everything by the law. We didn't do anything that was illegal. We didn't try to hide anything from you. I'm sorry for the response you got that you didn't like. I don't like that response either, and I'll be very honest with you, but he was telling the truth. We did by the law. And for the people that are interested, yeah, you do need to do some research. I'm glad you did do this. We've had a very good discussion about what's going on out there. Do some of the signs I see out there, do I like? No, because they are not telling the people the truth. So don't come in here criticizing the town of Florence. We have an idea of what we want. We have an idea of our annexation areas. We have an idea in our planning area. But please do not come in here and disqualify this government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And some of the accusations you made about us not being right. I'm sorry. I don't agree with you, so that's my opinion. Thank you. I don't like criticism, my council and my staff. You want to criticize Tom Rankin, go ahead. Leave my staff alone. Need a motion. Let's close the call to the public.
Make a motion to adjourn to Mail Ranch Community Facilities District 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn to Merrill Ranch Community Facility District 1. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item A, ordinance number MRCFD 1111-14, discussion and possible approval of an ordinance of the Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 1, Pinal County, Arizona, levying the assessed valuation of the property within the Community Facilities District, subject to taxation of a certain sum upon each $100 of valuation sufficient to raise the amount estimated to receive from funds for the community facilities expenses for fiscal years ending the 30th day of June 2015. First read on June 16. Second reading was held June 7, 2014. This item is for action.
Mike.
Good evening, Chairman, Board. Tonight is a public hearing. A public hearing and second reading of the ordinance was held on July 7th to levy the secondary property tax for the district. Tonight's action is to adopt the ordinance. Again, there is no change in the rate, as has been the case for the district's inception. The total levy rate is $3.55 per $100 of net assessed valuation, which consists of $3.25 for the repayment of GO bonds issued to finance the cost of public infrastructure improvements, The other 30 cents is to fund the maintenance of the public improvements as well as administrative costs to operate the district. The $3.25 tax levy will generate an estimated $504,900 for the debt service, and then the 30-cent tax levy will generate $46,600 for operations and maintenance, for a total levy of $551,500 in property tax revenue. Any questions?
Any member of the board have anything they'd like to ask Mike? Hearing none. Okay, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance MRCFD 1111-14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number MRCFD 1111-14. Any other discussion? I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Make a motion
to adjourn for Merrill Ranch Community Facility District Number 1 Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn from Merrill Ranch Community Facility District Number 1 Board. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn to Merrill Ranch Community Facility District Number 2 Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn to Merrill Ranch Community Facility District Number 2 Board. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item A, ordinance number MRCFD 21014, discussion and possible approval of an ordinance of the Merrill Ranch Community Facilities District Number 2, Pinal County, Arizona, levying the assessed valuation of the property within the Community Facilities District subject to the taxation of certain sum upon each $100 of valuation sufficient to raise the amount estimated to be received from funds for community facilities expenses for fiscal year ending the 30th day of June 2015. First reading again was June 16th. Second reading was July 7th. This item is for action. Mr. Farina?
Chairman, members of the board, the information for this district is the same as the last district. Tonight's action is to adopt the ordinance with the exception of the numbers. The total levy rate is $3.55 per $100 of net assessed valuation, which consists of $3.25 for the repayment of GO bonds issued to finance the cost of public improvement or public infrastructure improvements. The other 30 cents is to fund the maintenance of the public improvements as well as administrative costs of the district. The $3.25 tax levy will generate an estimated $476,900 for the debt service, and the 30-cent tax levy will generate $44,000 for a total of $520,900 in property tax levy.
Any question for Mike? Need a motion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number MRCFD 210-14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance MRCFD 210-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Make a motion to adjourn from Merrill Ranch Community Facility District Number 2 Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn from Merrill Ranch Community Facility District Number 2 Board. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item 12, public hearings and presentations. 12A, public hearing on a minor general plan amendment to amend the Town of Florence 2020 general plan to change the land use designations on approximately 1,183 acres from employment light industrial, high-density residential, and community commercial to master plan community. And for the discussion, approval, disapproval of resolution number 1455-14, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the Arizona Farms Minor General Plan Amendment for case number PZC 18-14 GPA. Mr. Etkoff?
Thank you. And good evening, Mayor and Council. You have a few minor general plan amendments and development agreements on your agenda tonight. Everything is pretty much related to the annexations for the most part. This particular property is the Arizona Farms property, and it actually is falling in both the Magic Ranch annexation area and the Arizona Farms annexation area, nearly taking the two square sections of land, just shy of that at 1,183 acres. You can see again the property highlighted on the general plan map right there. Current land use designations. Well, although the property is zoned in the county largely for single-family development with some minor commercial, some minor employment, there was a time several years ago where the then property owners came forward to us with a plan to do a solar yard or a solar manufacturing development on the property. The general plan was amended to reflect that. However, those plans never materialized, and the property subsequently changed hands over time to now currently there's 3 landholders in the development, the primary one being El Dorado Holdings, and then also Langley has a substantial piece in there, and then there's 3 other small pieces. But for the most part, the property now has been assembled into one major land ownership, and they've come forward to us with a plan to do a master plan development on the property, such as what was already in place in Pinal County, but to improve upon what was done there in the county. And at the next meeting, you're going to see more details on that in the zoning application that comes forward on the property. But this is coming before that to let you know that now, since it is over 640 acres, which is a requirement of our code, since there is primarily a single developer looking at this property, and since they are designing a new PUD and a development agreement that will master plan this property, they're coming forward with this land use designation. So there will still be, when the zoning comes forward to you, there will still be single family, medium density residential, high density residential, commercial employment. There is a planned, already in the development, there's at least a single school site that's been designated on the plan, and there may be more depending on consultations with the school district. They also have plans to donate a 20-acre park site to the town of Florence, so we can develop some park infrastructure up in this area. There also is a 5-acre dedication for a fire station, and also this is the first development that we've had in town that is actually on their zoning application taking the first step to trying to pinpoint the freeway corridor on their property. Now this property is pretty unique in respect to the corridor, because all of the options that are on the table right now with the north-south corridor, they all come through right in this area. So there's only so many choices where it could thread through in this area north of Crestfield Manor and around some of the other developments in the county. So they've worked extremely hard with us, and we're very happy with the relationship that we've had with El Dorado, Langley, and others over the past year. Almost actually less than a year, because they acquired the property already into the annexation. So they've had to work really fast to put this together. So as you know, the master plan designation, it just gives them a little bit more flexibility to plan their property over time, because with 2 sections of land, this isn't a piece of property that's going to just develop in a year or 2 or 5 years. This is going to be a long-term effort for them, similar to what you see with Anthem at Merrill Ranch and Merrill Ranch, which also enjoyed the master plan designation. And the Planning and Zoning Commission has sent you a unanimous favorable recommendation on this, and I'd be happy to address any questions you have.
Before we go into the public hearings, any member of the council have any questions of Mark? Tommy?
I have comments, well, maybe a question. The original Town of Florence planning area, that was designated as a light industrial? Or is that the zoning that the county had on it?
Yes, the land use designation, Councilmember Salai and Mayor Council, the land use designation that we have had in the town on this property is shown on the map, which is the light industrial, community commercial, and high density residential. That, however, was inconsistent with the Arizona Farm zoning that is on the property, which is single family development with a golf course and a couple of employment commercial nodes. So the reason that the general plan was changed to something other than what the zoning was in the county was because of the property owner coming forward to request that. And at that time, they were going to propose a solar development on it and annex the property. And then that all fell apart.
So it being in the county is already going the direction of the golf course and the residential?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mayor.
my concern is that we have an area of railroad, and my concern is that we would be losing potential light industrial, and it's something that we want to be aware of in future zoning changes, is that we're limited in that railroad access and light industrial. So just something to keep in mind.
You know, Tommy, on that map here, which map? The one that's on the screen? If you take and you go northwest, and you see that other parcel tract that runs off there, that's that Magma Junction area. I would hate to see us put any kind of residential in that area. The way it was slided right now for light industrial, I think you're completely correct on that. A track going through the development's going to be a challenge for you. We're not going to build an overpass like you're doing down Maricopa for $14–15 million. So you guys got to figure that one out. Okay, any other questions for? Okay, at this time I'll open the public hearing. Anybody have any comment on this that they'd like to make? Seeing no movement, I'll close the public hearing. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 1455-14 for approval of this minor general plan amendment.
Easy.
You need me to say the whole?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 1455-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item B, public hearing on a minor general plan amendment to amend the Town of Florence 2020 general plan to amend the future land use map contained within the land use element to adjust the town's conceptual alignment of the proposed north-south ADOT freeway corridor, as well as the proposed conceptual alignment of the ADOT passenger rail corridor, based on the information collected and analysis completed since the adoption of the 2020 general plan in 2010 and subsequent amendments, and for discussion, approval, disapproval of resolution number 1456-14, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the north-south ADOT freeway corridor minor general plan amendment, PZC 22-14-GPA. Mr. Eckhoff?
Mayor and Council, as you know, almost every year since about 2007 and possibly 2008, we actually became one of the most proactive communities in all of Pinal County by identifying the very conceptual at that time alignment of the north-south corridor on our land use maps. Other communities followed. Eloy, Coolidge, Apache Junction. Pinal County offered an alignment on their comprehensive plan process. But we decided way back then that this was an effort that, although it had stalled for a while, it was picking up, and we really wanted to help guide that process and not just be at the whim of ADOT and their process. So we identified an alignment, and subsequently, almost every year since then, we've come back to you to help refine the alignment based on what's happening with the ADOT study, based on what's happening with consultations, discussions with the major stakeholders that are affected throughout the development. As soon as we get additional information, we've been coming back to you to update the corridor. And what you have here on the map now is where the current alignment is for the freeway corridor, and you can see it's rather wide, and there's an area there in the middle, north of Merrill Ranch, where at that time we weren't quite sure if the freeway corridor would end up going over the Cap Canal and then back over again, or if it would just stay south of the Cap Canal. Southwest Value Partners, myself, others, ADOT, we all got together and ultimately was agreed upon that it wasn't going to be able to make that extra jump or 2 jumps over the Cap Canal. So it's going to hug the north end of Merrill Ranch Parkway and then come back around and veer north. So the refinement that you see today is basically taking that wider swath and starting to narrow it down and fine-tune it a little bit and fine-tune the locations of some of the potential interchanges that you saw on the previous map. But also now you'll see that there's 2 blue dots, and we've identified those. Well, we've identified the corridor as a whole as not only the north-south freeway corridor, but also the north-south freeway corridor and the ADOT passenger rail corridor, which reflects the alignment options that you see in this map, and as the ADOT rail team presented to you, the options that they're studying for the passenger rail, one of them being the north-south corridor. So what we've done on this map is continue to say that this is not only the freeway corridor, but is a multimodal corridor that will also be home ultimately to the passenger rail corridor. Which, of course, you know, both of these studies are ongoing, and there may be additional refinements and modifications over time, but we want to be proactive in this. And now those blue dots, getting back to the interchanges, those are not only interchanges for the freeway corridor, but also where we've identified the 2 most likely rail stops as well for the commuter rail aspect of it, and probably not the high speed. That's really, its objective is to go between Phoenix and Tucson as fast as possible, but that line is also being used for commuter rail. So Arizona Farms on the north would capture a lot of the population density, the employment and the commercial activity, and then the interchange and the rail stop on Butte Avenue, just west of Plant Road, would be the direct stop into downtown, whether you're traveling by car or ultimately by train. We do know that ADOT is saying that they're going to come back out to a public process to talk about the freeway corridor again, perhaps at the end of this year, perhaps first quarter of next year. The project it gets going pretty fast, and then it slows down, and then it picks up again. But they should be out to the public again, talking about where the study is and some of the issues that they've found. And they have been doing an environmental analysis of the corridor, and they have been doing a toll feasibility study as well, and they've been doing some additional work. So they actually have been on the ground studying this, and there'll be continued refinements, and we'll continue to respond to those as they come forward. And the Planning and Zoning Commission also has sent you a unanimous favorable recommendation on this case. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Any question? We've come a long time, huh?
Yes, sir.
And in that corridor, we know that the ADOT doesn't have any money to put it in at this time. They barely have enough money to do the studying with. So we're still talking quite a ways down the road. And we're also talking the possibility of it being a public-private partnership with the possibility of being toll lanes on the road.
And also, Mayor and Council, just to add to that, if I may, we're also talking to the stakeholders there on the ground who want some kind of road built, whether we're going to, even in the near term and not the long term. So we're even talking to the stakeholders about what is the potential of developing perhaps some type of parkway system to at least move some of the traffic in this central corridor here through Santan Valley and North Florence at least. And then also the other options on the table are to work with the stakeholders to try and fine-tune again that corridor and work with them to get some reservations in place. Do as much as we can shy of ADOT being able to catch up with us.
The stakeholders have really been helpful on this too. I want to thank them for that. I think it's very, very important that we have them on our side, and we're all working together towards getting that transportation route from Tucson all the way up into the East Valley area and coming through here. The rail, They said that they were going to have a public hearing down here. They're going to have another hearing. Have we heard any kind of a date on that? Where people would actually be able to come to a hearing?
Mayor, Council, I don't have any dates yet for the upcoming, if there are upcoming meetings on the rail study or the North-South Freeway corridor. I suspect that what they may end up doing is to cover both of those issues jointly when they come out, either some before the end of the year or again in first quarter of next year, to kind of simultaneously talk about both of those issues.
And would be your suggestion to the general public that wants input on that to make sure and attend that so that we have input into where it goes?
Absolutely.
Any other question, Mark? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. Does anyone have any question on it?
Ruth Harrison, Florence, Arizona. From what I remember, the original plans were somewhat like this, and then they were changed to move away from the Florence Gardens area. If I read this correctly, this comes much closer to the Florence Gardens area than the previous plan of yours did, and I think it's a little too close, frankly. And that's my opinion, and that's what I'll say here and at the other hearings as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing no movement, hearing nothing, I close the public hearing. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 1456-14 for the North-South ADOT Freeway Corridor Minor General Plan Amendment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 1456-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item C, public hearing on a minor general plan amendment to amend the Town of Florence 2020 general plan to amend the future land use map for removal of the aggregate resources AR overlay from the proposed reserve at Lookout Mountain Planned Community located at the southwest corner of Hunt Highway and the Heritage Road alignment due to the aggregate mining use being permanently eliminated from the subject site, and for discussion, approval, disapproval of resolution number 1457-14, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the reserve at Lookout Mountain Minor General Plan Amendment, PZC 23-14 GPA. Mr. Eckhoff?
Vice Mayor, members of the council, this one is extremely straightforward, so I'll make it very, very brief. But a while back, the state required that we identify any areas that were being utilized for the development of aggregate resources, sand, gravel, similar, on our land use map. We did so. Subsequently, new owners acquired this piece of property, and now they are pursuing the annexation into the Town of Florence and the residential development of their property. So they have abandoned that aggregate resource use that existed on the property, and there's no longer a need or a requirement from the state to keep that on the land use map. And you have a recommendation to remove that, which was endorsed also by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
This is a public hearing, so is there anyone on the council who would like to say anything about this?
Just one question. Once they remove that, there's no going back to the previous, is there?
Well, Member Celaya, Vice Mayor, members of the council, should for some reason there be a change and the owners decided to go back to an aggregate use again, they would then have to come back and do an amendment to the general plan to get the use back on the map.
Any more questions from the council? We'll open the public hearing to the public at this time. Go ahead.
Seeing no movement, hearing no comment, I'll close the public hearing. Need a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 14577-14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, where's that? Resolution number 1457-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mayor and member council, on Friday, the Chamber of Commerce did contact us and ask for the business of the month to be moved to the August meeting, and we did confirm we would do that for them.
Thank you.
Item 13, consent. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless council member or member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Item A, authorization to enter into an agreement between Superstition Fire and Medical Department and the Town of Florence for maintenance service for the Town of Florence fire apparatus. Item B, authorization to enter an agreement between the City of Mesa, the TRWC, and the Town of Florence to become associate members of Topaz. Item C, approval to hire Ripple Industries for the installation of SCADA equipment at well sites and reservoirs in an amount not to exceed $70,000. Item D, approval of a lease with Carol Johnson, Silver King Hair Company for Suite 201 in the Silver King Marketplace. Item E, approval of the June 18th, June 23rd Town Council minutes. Item F, receive and file the following Board and Commission minutes. April 17th, 2014, Planning and Zoning Commission minutes. Mayor, member council, that is your consent agenda for this evening.
Does any member of the council have anything you want taken off the consent agenda? Any member of the public have anything they'd like taken off the consent agenda? Seeing no action, hearing no movement? Well, is that right?
Yeah.
Seeing no movement, hearing no action. There we go. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as written. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item 14, unfinished business. Item A, ordinance number 612-14. Discussion, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, levying the assessed valuation of the property within the Town of Florence, subject to taxation of a certain sum upon each $100, a valuation sufficient to raise the amount estimated to be received from funds for the general municipal expenses for fiscal years ending the 30th day of June 2015. First reading was held June 16th, 2014. Second reading July 7th, 2014. This is an action item. Mr. Farina.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A public hearing and second reading of the ordinance to levy the primary property tax for the town was held on July 7th. Tonight's action is to adopt the ordinance. I'd like to reiterate that this does not increase the property tax rate. The current rate for 2013-14 is $1.1182. That will be the same rate for the following year, 2014-15. But although there was no increase in the property tax, a truth in taxation hearing was still required by state statute because of the increase in the town's net assessed valuation, which therefore caused an increase to the property tax levy in dollars. Again, not the rate, but the total dollars of property tax increased. In 2013-14, the $1.1182 rate generated a property tax levy of $814,526. And in 2014-15, the same property tax rate will generate $852,740 due to new construction and, again, the increase in the overall net town assessed valuation. So, for example, the property tax on a $100,000 home in 2013-14 would be $111.82, and for 2014-15, it would be the same amount, $111.82. In addition to the town's primary property tax levy, this ordinance also serves to adopt a zero property tax rate for the streetlight improvement districts, numbers 1, 2, and 3. Again, that zero rate is being adopted because there are adequate funds in the district that have accumulated over time, and the adequate funds are there for the operations of the streetlight improvement districts. With that, I can answer any questions, and this is also a roll call vote.
Does any member of the council have any question of Mike?
Since you're not raising the taxes, we're all for it. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, at this time I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 612-14.
Second.
We have a motion and second to adopt Resolution 612-14. Any other discussion? Like a roll call vote, please?
Valerie Woolrich?
Aye.
Sorry. Councilmember Walter?
Aye.
Councilmember Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Celaya?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Rankin?
Aye.
My apologies, Councilmember Woolrich.
That's okay. I'm not that formal.
Motion carries.
Item 15, new business. Item A, resolution number 1461-14, discussion approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the pre-annexation and development agreement with the Superstition Springs R14 Association, a limited Arizona partnership, an Arizona limited partnership. Wolfies RE Holdings LLC, an Arizona limited liabilities company, and David C. Phillips, a married man dealing with his sole and separate property, hereafter cumulatively referred to as owner, and authorizing execution of such pre-annexation and development agreement. Annexation number 2013-02, commercial employment and park links at Arizona Farms property. Mr. Eckhoff?
Mayor, members of the council, we have 4 development agreements on the agenda tonight. All 4 of them have the same terms that you've seen in previous agreements. The residential impact fee, there's a commitment from the town to not increase the residential impact fee for the 7 years effective upon annexation. This particular development agreement also has a small commercial component, and the town has an extended the ability to not have the impact fees increase on the commercial component for 10 years, knowing that the commercial is probably going to lag behind the residential aspects. So on this site you can see both the annexation areas, and then we'll zoom in, and this particular development agreement is in Arizona Farms, then the Arizona Farms development, particularly those 3 parcels up there at Arizona Farms and Attaway. And you zoom in and we get to what this is, a very small area of the Arizona Farms overall development that we're looking at. A little bit of commercial at Attaway and Arizona Farms, and then also the owner has a plan to do a senior attached housing product development on the residential part of it. I've seen where he's built a development, this product actually in other places, including Mesa. It's a very nice, attractive product. It will go in well there and work with the overall master plan. So, be happy to address any questions you may have with this.
Any member of the council have any questions, Mark? Hearing none. Now listen, we don't have to have a public hearing on this, right? Okay. Need a motion?
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 1461-14, entering into a pre-annexation and development agreement with Super Springs R14 Associates and Arizona Limited Partnership, Wolfies RE Holdings LLC, and Arizona Limited Liability Company, and David C. Phelps, a married man dealing with his sole and separate property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 1461-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item B, resolution number 1462-14, discussion approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the pre-annexation and development agreement with Res AZ Crestview, LLC, a Florida limited liability company, and authorizing execution of such pre-annexation and development agreement. Annexation number 2013-02, Crespil Manor, Realto property. Mr. Eckhoff?
Mayor and Council, we're skipping back now over to the Arizona Farms annexation, and particularly we're in the Crestfield Manor subdivision, and you can see that we're in the northeast corner of that subdivision, and the lots that are highlighted here are subject to the pre-annexation and development agreement. And just as we've seen with the other pre-annexation and development agreements in Crestfield Manor, because most of it is undeveloped, or I should say developed but unbuilt lots. So the lots are all ready to go vertical on them, they just need the homes. But the same terms again, where if they can get to a building again on the homes on the property, if they can do that within the next 7 years, they're going to benefit from potentially a slightly reduced impact fee. And I say potentially because ultimately the impact fee studies have to be redone. We don't know over time if that fee is going to go up or going to go down in any particular area. But they do have an opportunity to have an incentive to build in this subdivision. I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Any question for Mark? Will this finish out Crestfield?
Yes, this is the last pre-annexation and development agreement for Crestfield. So there are 3 major landowners in this particular development, and this is 3 of 3.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 1462-14, entering into a pre-annexation and development agreement with RESAZ Build LLC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 1462-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Resolution number 1463-14, discussion approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the pre-annexation and development agreement with RMG Lucky Hunt 65 LLC, an Arizona limited liability company, and authorizing execution of such pre-annexation development agreement, annexation number 2013-01, Lucky Hunt property. Mr. Eckhoff?
Mayor, members of the council, we hop back again into the Magic Ranch annexation area, and this particular property is located along the Hunt Highway corridor, and specifically you can see the blow up there with the frontage along Hunt Highway and a couple of buttes that are contained within the development. This is a piece of property, this property and actually the next item on the agenda that have been acquired by Ron McCray and his partners, and they're really excited about doing planning some additional properties in the town. And of course, as you recall, that particular owner also has agreed to dedicate a fire station site to the town in the Magic Ranch annexation. Be happy to address any questions you may have.
Any question for Mark?
Yeah, I'm looking at the exits out of there. If this was to start construction at this time, who owns the property in front of the major portion of this, which is next to Hunt Highway?
Vice Mayor Smith, Mayor, members of the council, that's a very excellent observation. And actually, in this particular case, Ron McCray and his partners own the, I believe there's a combination of 3 developments out there, and they're providing each other cross-access so that they can, if they all work together, they'll build the access points concurrently. If this property would happen to be constructed prior to another one, it would obtain the cross-access through the other developments to get them access out to Hunt Highway. So this is a case where they're under different ownerships, but they're ultimately being developed as one cohesive subdivision.
Okay, on the north section of this, the brown area, there are no exits out of there at all. Is that correct?
That's correct in that particular area.
The only question is on that, there's an awful lot of housing up there with no exit, other than coming all the way down in the southern half. Isn't there a chance that we could put an opening up there higher? There's already a turnaround in there. It's right up against it.
Would be better to go back to that last
Yeah,
map.
go back to the other map.
There.
There you go. There's already a turnaround in there that's right next to Hunt Highway. And it seems to me that having the only 2 exits or entrances down lower kind of confines those people in the north half of there with no exit.
And in fact, there's discussion in the development agreement that deals with access, in that we would ensure that they have adequate access from Hunt Highway. So should they decide that they want to have an additional ingress or egress to Hunt Highway, which really would be their main their main corridor, they actually could amend that through the development process, through the preliminary plat and the final plat ultimately. So what you see here is a conceptual plan for the development agreement, but they would still go through plating, and even in the development agreement, they've addressed the need to have access.
I just watched that, that's all.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, Mark?
Not a question, but a comment that I just want to note. I'm very excited for all of these, I'm so sorry, everything that's happening with our growth, and I also wanted to note that the PADA commits to not increase the development impact fees for the subject site for 7 years of the term of the PADA, which also is going to promote jobs, and in turn it's going to promote growth, and in turn it's going to bring jobs such as construction, sales, paint, all of those aspects, which is great for our community.
Yes, indeed.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, need a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 1463-14, annexation and development agreement with RMG Lucky Hunt 65 LLC and Arizona Limited Liability Company.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 1463-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item D, Resolution Number 1464-14, discussion approval or disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the pre-annexation and development agreement with Magic Lake 80, LLC, and Arizona Limited Liability Company, and authorizing execution of such pre-annexation and development agreement, annexation number 2013-01, Lookout Mountain property. Mr. Eckhoff?
And Mayor and Council, we indirectly covered this site in the last application, but in the blue there you can see where it relates to the site that we just talked about in the red, but then the little white island there along Hunt Highway is where the Barclay and Smith's properties are, which is Smith's is the Fry's food and drug store that's been planned there for that property for a while. So this kind of circles around that and joins to the subdivision that was proposed earlier. And now you can see how the axis is kind of coming together on this particular development. And so the island in the middle there is going to be, we hope, at some point a Fry's grocery store with some inline shops and some pad sites. And then actually across the street to it is where we did the development agreement for the planned mini storage facility. A nice little commercial node in that area.
Mark, any questions, Mark? I would expect on Exhibit C and D that they are not going to call those streets by Street K, Street L.
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 1464-14.
Second.
Any other question? Mark, let me ask you, and maybe the circle there you said is where Barclays is looking to put their store in. Is that already in the town?
Mayor, members of the council, actually we have negotiated a pre-annexation and development agreement for the Barclay ownership and for the Smith's ownership, which is Fry's, and we have that set for the next council agenda. So their property is not yet in the town, but they are working closely with us to bring that site into the town.
And this is all contingent upon the annexation being approved?
All these wonderful things that we're discussing here tonight are contingent upon the annexations, the ability to have the quality and the development of the infrastructure, the parks, the school sites, the commercial employment opportunities, absolutely all tied to the annexations.
So we're not creating a county island by doing this?
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item E, discussion approval, disapproval of the town manager entering into an amendment to the town's current contract with Hayden Building Corp. in an amount not to exceed $172,000 for additional design-build construction service required to complete the proposed Patia Park at Silver King Plaza project. Mr. Eckhoff.
Mayor, members of the council, well, it's hardly a secret by now, but especially with our senior planner on Fox 10 News and so forth. But as soon as we started digging into the ground, doing the Padilla Park project, we discovered that there were quite a number of historic bottles placed on the site, and I won't go too deep into the details, but obviously we were expecting when we were doing work there that we would find some remnants of some foundations, and we were working with those. That was the known there, and we were working already closely with SHPO on what we expected to find. The bottles, which were just a little bit under the surface of the ground, were quite a surprise to everyone, and a pretty fascinating thing. Hundreds and hundreds of the bottles, probably forming all situated upside down, probably forming pathways at some point when there were other buildings on the property. But as neat as that find was, the first thing that we had to do was stop construction of the project, notify SHPO, notify the Arizona State Museum, hire an archaeologist. Archaeologists went out there, did some analysis, proposed a report or recommendations, submitted that to SHPO and the Arizona State Museum. They have agreed with our methodology of how to approach revisions to the park and keep the project moving forward. But why you have a change order here is because a large portion of that proposed $172,000 is directly related to the cost of the archaeological work that has to be done on the site. So there will be some additional excavation of this on the site. There will be efforts to preserve as much as we can of the site, which means that for the most part, after the amount of excavation is completed that is required by the state, the goal will to be really not to disturb the site any further and to let it continue to rest there and have a preservation easement placed over the site. Now, some of the bottles and other things that are excavated from the site, we have to share those obviously with the state of Arizona, but we'd also like to seek permission to have a display of our own with the town and or with the Pinal County Historical Museum. And then also throughout the duration of the project, the archaeologists will be there on site, so whenever they are doing any digging, any trenching, any movement of dirt, they'll be there to continually monitor if we find something, and we may have to adjust the plan here and there according to that. But there is an overall adjustment to the plan so that instead of doing any excavation to gather dirt, to create berms on the property, we'll actually be bringing dirt on the property. So we're going to limit the amount of excavation that is done. We'll bring dirt on the property to achieve the berming effect that's on the south side of the park. We'll modify the location of the stage to limit the amount of excavation that's done in the prime area where the bottles were found. But for the most part, still keep everything intact. All the major components of the park are still intact. Remember, this park is really divided into the three major components that make it successful, which is the patio, which is the extension of the building, the minimal water feature. It's certainly not a major recreational amenity, aquatic center feature, anything like that. It's a very small water pad there, which adds to the ambiance of the area and gives the kids something to do when they're there with their mom and dad, either eating at the restaurant or enjoying an event on the lawn. The third component of it, of course, is the lawn there, which we've designed to have some intimate outdoor events of various types. And there will still be a fence around the perimeter of the site. Also, you'll see that the 172, what we've done also is include a substantial contingency in there now, just in case we run into any other issues. And then also we've sped up some of the signs that were going to be programmed in later on with funds that were already set aside, that being a historic Town of Florence monument sign at the corner of Ruggles and Main, a park sign specifically that will be the Padilla Park, Silver King Plaza sign, municipal park sign, and now also we'll be doing some historical signs that will offer some interpretation of the history of the site. We already knew that we would do that to some extent because of the buildings that were there, the history of the property, and now we'll be adding a couple more of those signs relative to this latest finding. And if we can get the change order approved, they would like to be back in business here very, very soon. And unfortunately, though, we've delayed the project now probably a month or two. We're probably into late September, early October to complete the park now at this stage.
Any questions, Mark?
Yeah, is this required by state law or federal law or SHPO? I mean, do we have to protect these bottles? I mean, I'm all for historic preservation, but $172,000 for some old whiskey bottles, that's just bizarre. I mean,
and they were empty, too.
I think unless we're bound by law that we have to preserve these, I mean, to me, this is like digging up an old dump or something. You found some antique bottles, or, I mean, what makes this, so historically significant that we have to change the plan and spend almost $200,000? We're already spending $500,000 on this park, and then we're going to be up to almost $700,000. I mean, that's, I don't know. I mean, unless there's a lot of people that really like looking at old bottles, I can see digging them out, give them to the museums, spread them around, do whatever. But $172,000 and then change the whole plan on the park, I think it's kind of silly myself. But.
We are, Member Hawkins, appreciate your comments. We are actually governed under the Arizona Antiquities Act. It's a municipal property where we're doing development, so we're governed under that act. But also because of the historic district, we're governed under the State Historic Preservation Office and the Arizona State Museum. So we really had no choice. In fact, the contractor had no choice. As soon as they came across that, they had to stop immediately, and we had to contact those folks. And remember, beyond being in the Historic District and the Antiquities Act, there also is a preservation easement that is on a good portion of the property from SHPO because of funds that were utilized in the past to do some of the preservation work. But there's basically about 3 or 4 layers of state government regulations that mandate that we did exactly what we did and hire an archaeologist and come up with a plan which has to be approved by the state, and then we move forward according to that plan.
Well, I think it's just another example of government gone amok with our rules. I mean, like I said, if this was something with major historical significance, I could see it. But a bunch of old whiskey bottles, I think it's just an example of how government just loves to spend our money.
Do you have a breakout of what the archaeologist fees are, the contingency, and any other costs associated with the 172?
Yes, Member Celaya. And I apologize, it actually didn't reproduce extremely well in your packet. But I can tell you that there's about 80,000 or so, plus or minus, that's directly related to Logan Simpson. There's a contingency that potentially they have to, that additional work evolves for them over time. There also is an additional contingency. I believe that it was roughly in the ballpark of 8,000 to 9,000 that just allowed for the unknown. There was an amount that was. Oh, thank you very much. So I'm right so far. There's a remobilization of the contractor, the shutdown cost because they had equipment on the site. They had to take it off the site, they'll have to bring it back out to the site. The fence rental period has been extended, the barricade rentals have been extended, the toilet rental, additional survey costs. But I will note in there is a substantial amount of money for the park monument sign, the town park sign, and the historical signs. So the 172 is not all directly related to this, but because once we complete the park and because the preservation easement will be put on the property, we didn't want to be coming back in there and doing any kind of excavation for signs or whatever it may be. So we're getting all that done. But it is roughly about 75 to 80,000 directly related to Logan Simpson, and the contingency just for the complete unknown is just over $10,000.
I've got one more thing on this also. It's the way I'm reading it, to remobilize the earthwork contractor, that's $1,200. The superintendent during the shutdown is costing us $2,200. The superintendent for added work duration, another $6,600. Project manager gets another $8,000. The site fence rental, $1,500. Anyway, and then on the park, on the signs, a park monument sign, $7,000. A monument sign, $9,160. And then a monument sign pier, that's $3,000. Interpretive signage allowance, $4,000. You know, I mean, this, I don't know. I don't know why some of this wasn't in the original contract other than the archaeologist, but whatever.
Charles, you have
It's a lot of money for finding a few bottles.
Do you have an answer to Bill?
Councilmember Hawkins, Mayor, Council, if I may. A lot of these items were anticipated outside of the contract, but because we are no longer going to be able to disturb the ground, once this is done, it needs to be put in here and done now, because we're not going to be able to disturb the ground once it's completed.
Well, I'm just saying all these extra costs here, the monument signs, those, I would have thought those would have been in the original contract. I mean, this is extra stuff here. This isn't stuff that's out of the 500,000. This is stuff that we're adding on.
Councilmember Hawkins, Mayor, Council, you are correct. Those are items that we were going to be purchasing outside of that Hayden contract and bid those out separately. But since the state is now telling us we're no longer allowed to disturb the ground, we need to put these inside this contract and complete it. We can't do any more contracts outside of this. Once the ground is pushed over, we can't disturb it any longer.
Is there any funding that we're able to receive from the state as they're imposing this upon us through that act? Is there any funding available that we can seek?
Councilmember Walter, I'm not even sure if that's the case. I mean, Mr. Eckhoff, you might know, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Councilmember Walter, Mayor, members of the council, directly from the state, really, for the past several years, there really hasn't been any money at all for historic preservation-related activities. We do want to see if there's any opportunities to pursue some private grants that may be out there, or maybe perhaps the next tribal grants that are out there. Maybe there's an opportunity to get some money through those resources, but really there hasn't been very much money at all for any historic preservation activities. It's been, in fact, a lot of those funds were raided and put into other things during the recession.
Okay, and also, Mike, how will this impact our budget overall?
Councilmember Walter, Mayor and Council, the town budget's a $2 million contingency in the capital projects fund each year for events like this one here.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and Council, if I may also mention to you all that, once the project is complete, there is definitely an opportunity then that we can apply for grants because of the historic preservation that's being done to that site. So after the fact, we do have that possibility.
Are you talking about Heritage Fund?
just overall national awards and Arizona awards outside. Yes.
That's a $500 one, Bill.
What's that?
That's $500 award we get for $172,000.
Another thing, while we're on if we're going to change the design of the park, the water pad, you know, for just liability reasons alone, I'd like to see a fountain instead of the pad, and I can't imagine it costing any more, and it'd be easier to maintain, I would think, and because you know, you say it's to entertain kids and while their parents are eating or doing whatever. I'd want their parents to be right there with them. And then when they slip on that water and smack their head, you know, they're going to sue us, but I don't know.
I disagree with the removal of the water pad. I've seen the one up in Anthem. I've actually had grandkids play on that, and it is, it's a very neat feature to have. It's something that won't be in our aquatic center. I'm sure that our pool area will be locked behind gates. The one up in Anthem is not. There's access for parents to take their kids to enjoy that water pad. It's not something that, you know, I believe the surface of that has kind of a rubberized coating on it, so that if they do fall, they're not going to. It's not like they're falling on concrete or anything like that. But I'm very much for the water pad at this part.
What is a water pad?
It's just
I mean, I thought it was something maybe a couple inches deep that, you know, I don't know.
Mayor, members of the council, I would encourage you, if you have the opportunity going through downtown Gilbert, in the historic water tank there, underneath the historic water tank in downtown, they did a tremendous job of developing a park really that actually has a lot of similarities to this one. There is a splash pad underneath the historic water tank. There is some preservation of some historic buildings in that area, but it's immediately adjacent to buildings that have very successful restaurants. So all the time you'll see folks coming out of those restaurants and then hanging out at this facility with their kids. So either coming before them or coming after them. The splash pad in itself, in this case, I believe we ended up with about 10 jets of water that are going to come out. So you're talking about a flat surface. It's not a very large area, but there's going to be 10 jets of water that will come out. They'll be programmed to be on at certain times and off at other times, and these jets are just going to randomly come up. And this is a feature that you can see at Anthem, a lot of the master plan communities, some of the shopping centers have done it, so there's just a place for families to kind of just hang out for a little bit and enjoy the sound, and the kids get to unwind a little bit.
Kind of like putting the new with the old.
It's a way really to, you know, what we're trying to do is continue to breathe life into the Silver King and to get tenants in there that can benefit from these things that we're doing here.
The one in Anthem operates off of a motion detector. There's a glass bubble, and when the kids walk over it, it'll start shooting up little jets of water. And they'll run over the top of it and play around it. Kind of similar to something, I don't know if you remember in Disneyland when they used to have the big round ball out there, the water came out and there was little splash things that popped up. And
back in '53 when I went to Disneyland, they didn't have that.
That's very fun.
They, you know, and again, I guess what I'm looking at is a way to mix and blend the new with the old, and this sounds like a pretty good idea from what you're talking about at Gilbert Historical District. So many times we forget about seeing something new in town for the kids. You know, we go downtown and we see a bunch of old buildings. Well, let's take a look at something new for the kids. I mean, I grew up with them, so I'm kind of used to them, but I like the idea. I think now that I know a little bit more about it, gosh, I might even go down there.
Take your kids to Anthem if you get a chance. My grandkids are 5 and under, and once they go, that's all they can talk about is when we're going to go back to the water park.
My kid's 30 years. My youngest is 30, Tommy. I'm not taking my kids out there.
They might like it too.
The grandkids is what you're referring to, I would assume.
Is Anthem, it's open to the general public? That's what I thought. I don't
No,
know.
I have a resident relation up there.
I'm sorry? What was that?
Said I have a resident relation up there.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I'm just saying that, you know, I didn't know that anybody could just go out.
Well, I got friends out there. I think I'll take them out there to take a look at it. We can go on a guess, right? I think that's what it is.
I think they'll let us in.
Yeah.
Am I for or against this? I'm not for spending $172,000 for a bunch of old whiskey bottles, because you can buy a bunch of full ones for a lot cheaper than that. But the point is, I know we have to move ahead, and I know that if we put this off any longer, it may never really take effect. And it's a park we need, and so I will be going along with it.
Well, I want everybody to know, I'm not trying to hold the project up here or anything. Like I said, I'm for historic preservation all the way. It's just that I think it's ridiculous that we have to spend this kind of money on a bunch of old whiskey bottles. It's just a good example of government gone awry. I mean, but no, I'm not going to vote against it and hold it up. It's just a shame that we have to spend close to $200,000 because we found some old garbage, basically.
You know, Bill, I agree with you wholeheartedly that it is a lot of money.
Where does it stop? You know?
But we have preserved this community. We spent a lot more money than $172,000 all over this community before. I agree with you that we are being told what we have to do on this. But again, I think as the Vice Mayor said, you know, it's something that we need to have to go ahead and do. And if it helps the downtown ever get rejuvenated, just another thing we can do for it. The splash pad, now that I know a little bit more about it, I'm interested in seeing it. I'm also curious, how much more digging are we going to do? Are we going to dig up a whole bunch more bottles? Are we going to dig up? Are we through excavating?
Mayor, Council, the state and the archaeologists have suggested that we really do not try to do extensive excavation on the property. We need to do a little more excavation to finish basically painting a picture of what was there and to extract some bottles and some different things. But really, they suggested that we do not go overboard on excavation, and that's why we're bringing the fill onto the property.
And I talked to the archaeologist down there the day he was in, the first day, and he's been doing this for 30 years up in the valley, and he said that he had never seen this before. He seen a picture of it one time, but in his 30 years he'd never seen it. So, and again, the bottles were upside down, so I knew they were empty, so I didn't even pull one out to see. Any other? Need a motion?
Make a motion to approve allowing the town manager to enter into a contract with Hayden Building Corp. in an amount not to exceed $172,000.
Second.
We have a motion to authorize the town manager to approve an amendment to the town's current contract with Hayden Building Corp. in an amount not to exceed $172,000. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item F, authorization to enter into a 3-year employment contract with Town Manager Charles A. Montoya. This is presented as per council's request.
Need a motion, folks?
Make a motion to approve the employment agreement between the town of Florence and the town manager.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the town agreement with, on compensation to the town manager. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make one comment on the gentleman that spoke earlier about severance packages for our town attorney. Perhaps he didn't take a look at the contract as well for the town manager. People need to understand these are standard contracts that are offered to the higher of department heads and or not department heads, but the town manager and the appointed officials by the council. So if there's discussion on that, there should also be awareness that this is a standard standard contract.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item G, authorization to enter into a one-year employment contract or employment agreement with Town Attorney James E. Minato. Again, this is as was requested by council to be presented.
Need a motion?
Make a motion to authorize entering into a one-year employment contract with Town Attorney James Minato.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve employment contract with Town Attorney James Minato for fiscal year 2014-2015. Any discussion?
Yes. I have discussion. The gentleman that spoke earlier, I went back and I looked into the notes in the contracts and once again, and in reviewing them, my feeling is with our town manager, he's here long-term, and one of the differences between his contract and the town attorney's contract is in order for the town manager to seek a position comparable to his salary, it would be another town manager position. Whereas I noticed in the town attorney's contract, he can still work and seek employment, but we would still pay him that 4-month severance package.
I think there's also a difference in the length of time that, as you said, that the contract is for. You're looking at approximately or a guaranteed 4 years or 3 years of contract with the town manager and only one for the town attorney. So, you know, in looking at it that way, if you were going to compare it, maybe the town attorney should also have a 3-year contract with that type of severance package.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now, manager report. You got anything to what?
There will be no manager's report this evening, sir.
Why?
Mayor, council members, we normally have that on every agenda just in case something comes up to inform council. This is not the normal time for the department reports. However, council may look in their boxes as instructed. The town manager's office is providing you all weekly updates as to what's happening around town.
Yeah, I've got mine.
I don't know. I was in this morning unless you guys stuffed the box after I left.
Yes, sir.
You stuffed it after I left?
Yes, sir.
Lisa, you're not going to let him around the ballot box, are you? Thank you. Call to the public. This second call to the public for anybody that has any comments they'd like to say.
My time to say something, is it?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Doug Carlson. I am from Florence Gardens. I have two questions real quick. The $172,000 for the park, is that coming out of the $2 million contingency fund?
I'll have staff get to you when that, after the meeting.
And number two, currently right now around the United States we are having large impact on local communities who are having 100, 200, 300 illegal children dropped on their doorstep. If that happened to Florence, do we have a contingency plan to pay for those added expenses? Would it interrupt our current budget or financial planning? Just wondering.
Good question. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call the public, call the council. Tara?
I have nothing this evening.
Bill?
Nope.
Valerie?
I don't have anything.
Tommy?
Pass.
Tom?
Becky, that you back there? Welcome. Nothing tonight. Thank you very much, folks.
We I lost a friend to Florence. It brought a lot of notoriety to Florence this week. The actor Jim Garner died. For those of you who don't know, that he was here for 3 months back in 1984 making the movie Murphy's Romance. Very nice gentleman. Had a lot of good times with him, a lot of good memories. pictures of him up and down Main Street. And he was a nice guy. I may have been a little strong tonight on the annexation. I am for the annexation. Our staff does a good job, and they try to do as much as they can and do it right. Should we receive criticism? Yes, that's our responsibility to receive criticism. It's also our responsibility to talk back. When I say I refer to Tom Rankin as the mayor, not the council as a whole. I want you to understand that. There are some instances when I do speak for the council. Tonight it was not. That was Tom Rankin speaking his mind, because I think I've got a quality staff, or the council and I have a quality staff. I'll put up against any other community our size or larger in this state. So if I offended anybody, I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel. Need a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We're adjourned.